All right, so we got quite a surprise here. You guys remember Richard Ojeda? He was a candidate in a red district in West Virginia, and we're going to be looking at something that was quite the surprise that came out. So he was unfortunately unsuccessful in his run for that seat in that district in the House just this past election cycle. Now, he ran on mostly an anti corruption campaign, and it garnered a lot of progressive support from progressives because, of course, anti corruption is a massive, massive issue. But as I'm going to get into in a second here, I think a lot of other stuff was overlooked, and I think a lot of people were either misled or just missing out on a lot of information. But this is an article from CNN. It says Richard Ojeda launches presidential bid after losing House race. It says Richard Ojeda, the former congressional candidate who lost his 2018 bid as a Democrat in southern West Virginia, is running for president in 2020. Quote, I'm Richard Ojeda and I'm running for the president of the United States of America. Prior to his announcement, Ojeda filed with the Federal Election Commission to run for president and teased the run in an email to supporters on Sunday night. Ojeda's entry to the race is unexpected and highlights just how massive the Democratic field for president will be in 2020. Democratic operatives believe big name candidates will announce presidential bids early in 2019, but fully expect candidates like Ojeda and others to explore a run in late 2018. Um, it says Ojeda's unique candidacy. He is a former Army paratrooper who ran on the Democratic ticket as a populist and Trump critic in Republican West Virginia. So, this is something that's really interesting because, again, this guy is someone who ran as a Democrat. He is someone who ran an anti corruption campaign. And in his state Senate seat, when he was state Senate in the state of West Virginia, I believe he led the teachers union and their strike. Sorry, he led the strike for the teachers. He also legalized, I believe, marijuana in the state. And so that is obviously something else that was really important. But here we have Richard Ojeda running for president in 2020. Now, here's what I have to say. So, first of all, let me get this out of the way right now, right quick, right, so you guys hear this immediately. Uh, Bernie Sanders is eons away in superiority to Richard Ojeda as a candidate. And when I say eons away, I mean eons away. Again, recall, no one comes close to Bernie Sanders in any way, shape, or form, especially Richard Ojeda, not even close. Bernie Sanders has a record of decades upon decades, which has been almost impeccable pretty much, whether it be voting against the Iraq War or, supporting Medicare for all and just all these different things, right? He has been essentially impeccable. The guy was advocating for gay rights and transgender rights before transgender rights was even really a thing. And he was supporting gay rights obviously way back when. There's the clip of him going off on the guy, the other representative who was shitting on gay people in the military. The dude's a massively massively principled guy who's been right on almost everything in the past. So I want to get that out the way immediately, which is that Richard Ojeda is not in any way even close to, not even a close contest, okay? Bernie Sanders is superior as a candidate to Richard Ojeda in any way, shape, or form. And so if they are both to run at the same time, nobody should be voting for Richard over Bernie. There's just no way. It's impossible. This is wrong. It's dumb. It's a bad idea. In fact, I believe it's an electoral strategy to get Bernie in. I think that we should have the least amount of progressives running, because the pool of people who are corporate Democrats is far larger than the pool of people that are progressive. So what do I mean by that? Think about the corporate Democrats, right? You have Kamala Harris, you have Kirsten Gillibrand, you have Cory Booker, you have Joe Biden, and you have a lot more too. There's more people that, who knows, maybe they could run. You never know. You never know in these times, right? People are getting desperate against Trump, and so there might be all kinds. But the pool of corporate Democrats are far larger than real progressives. And I don't consider Elizabeth Warren to be a real progressive anymore. So I'm not even going to throw her in that category with Bernie Sanders. But really, Bernie Sanders is almost alone, right? I mean, the only people, and I don't think Tulsi would ever run against him in a race. I don't think she would do that. That would be really fucked up, and I don't think she would do that. But the point here being is that the more corp dems that run and the less progressives that run is just confirming the election for us. That's what it's doing, because they will split the vote. Meanwhile, we keep all of ours, which is like, haha, we laugh at you, and we win. So I wanted to get that out of the way in the beginning. Bernie is far better than Richard in the first place. But people have been misled about Richard Ojeda, and that is partially because of the context of his race in the House. Now, let me be clear. I would have been fine. I supported him in his race for the House seat in West Virginia. But the difference between holding a House seat in a red district in West Virginia as a Democrat and being a Democrat in office as President of the United States, there literally couldn't be a bigger gap. It's impossible to be a bigger gap. So, let's go through some of his positions, because a lot of his shady and sort of wishy-washy stuff has been swept under the rug, especially by people like Kyle, because it's just something that, it's a red district. And so the context of the race is far, far different than it would be in an area like, or being president of the United States, which is obviously unbelievable, and it's such a big difference. But so here are some of the issues that we have here, right? As we know, and I consider Medicare for All to be my main litmus test to test whether or not you're a real progressive. If you don't support Medicare for All, you're not a real progressive. For obvious reasons, it would save us money and it would ensure all of the Americans. Now, I'm going to read you guys this stuff directly from his website. Here's what his website says about healthcare. It's quite lengthy. It says, "We have heard so much about healthcare over the last year. When I hear healthcare being discussed, words like death spiral, rising premiums, and no choice are used. Let's be clear. We can no longer afford to look past the serious problems in our nation concerning the Affordable Health Care Act. Sign up now for more updates on Richard's healthcare plans. Successful healthcare, let's talk about it. When a family cannot afford their premiums, that is not successful healthcare. When the healthcare available in our nation is more expensive but with worse outcomes than other developed nations, that is not successful healthcare. When a family cannot afford their deductibles, that is not successful healthcare. When our most vulnerable and sick citizens have poor access to healthcare, that is not successful healthcare. Actually, these are all things that show the need to carefully look at, examine, and improve the current healthcare system. When it comes to healthcare, the United States is far behind other developed countries in the world. Americans pay far more for medical care than people in other rich Western nations, but have little to show for it. In other words, Americans are being used by the system that is supposed to keep us healthy and safe." So look, this goes on for a long time here, and here's the main conclusion of this, okay? It says, "That is unacceptable. It is a sham, and it should be offensive for anyone who plans to use healthcare in their lifetime, and let's face it, that includes us all. Time for a public option. It's an outrage that millions of people in this nation are forced to pay for insurance plans that they cannot afford simply because they have no other options." And then it goes on to say that we need to give tax credits, but here's the basically almost the final sentence that said. It says, "The next time someone wishes to talk about healthcare, tell them that we have a plan. A public option will help families keep more money in their pocket, have access to better healthcare, and not infringe on anyone's rights to choose where they want to find that healthcare." All right, so immediately there, he fluff pieces his opinion on healthcare. Now, a lot of this stuff is totally fine to put in a healthcare category to describe the problems, but you can tell the process this guy's going through. He doesn't know what his position is on healthcare. He doesn't have a position on healthcare, and so he fills it in. He fills it in with the public option, which is not Medicare for All, by the way. Medicare for All is my litmus test. People talk about litmus tests. That's my main litmus test, okay? Everything else is important as well, but this is my main litmus test because in my opinion, and also, by the way, the opinion of the majority of people now who voted, I believe it was the last election cycle, we saw that healthcare is the most important issue to people, which it is because tens of thousands of people die every single year because they don't have basic access to healthcare. And so I believe that is, and people, by the way, going massively bankrupt, having massive bankruptcies. And so, and there was also, it says sign up now for more updates on Richard's healthcare plans. Like what? Why would you put that in there? Like is that because you don't have one? Like, yeah, That's the reason why. It's because you don't have one. And look, it says, actually, these are all things that show the need to carefully look at, examine, and improve the current healthcare system. That's something that is said in a fluff piece. Let's keep it real, okay? This is definitely what you put in a fluff piece. Could you imagine that being in a Bernie Sanders category? I don't think so. I don't feel like that. Maybe you disagree, but especially within the context of this, of what he's saying, it seems like a fluff piece. And so what I'm trying to get at here is, A, most importantly, he doesn't support Medicare for all, but also, very closely as importantly, he doesn't even know what his position is. He just fills it in with public option. I don't believe he actually knows what his position is on healthcare. I honestly don't. I genuinely do not believe he really has an opinion. Now, the second massive issue that we have here is college education. So we know that college education is something that is massively important because it is a entryway essentially to improving someone's life, because then they're able to get a better job. And also, it's really important because I think the student debt rose over $1 trillion at this point, which is an insane amount of money. So here's the section on Richard's website that's the category. It's called college affordability. Interesting phrasing there. Those are the phrasing that we see. That's analogous to the access to healthcare category. It says, college affordability is an urgent matter, especially with the amount of jobs that require more advanced degrees. I believe in easing the student loan debt burden by offering relief in the form of lower interest rates. In addition to easing loan debt, we must work with local governments and universities to better monitor tuition costs. One way for us to work with local universities and governments by offering incentives and tax breaks to rein in costs. A middle-class family that has to pay for their child to go to college suffers more than anyone by far. Most middle-class families make too much money to currently receive aid, but not nearly enough money to cover college expenses out of pocket. We must expand to aid to middle-class families and raise the maximum income requirements for current federal aid, such as the Pell Grant. Big red flag, which plays into the same two things I explained earlier. He doesn't support free college education. That's another very important thing. Free college education is not a hard issue. Free college education, if you know the numbers of how to fund and the context of our military raises, if we were to just divert the money that we keep fluffing with our military, and I'm legit talking about precedent and facts. The previous time, which we just raised the military budget, I believe it was like $70 billion a year. If you were to take that money and you were to avert it to college funds, you would fund You would fund free college education. So I'm talking dead on specific numbers here. You're talking that $70 billion a year that went to the military budget, that would fully fund, I repeat, fully fund the free college education. And on top of that, you could do a Wall Street speculation tax of 1%, which would only affect the top people, because middle class people don't own stock, or at least not that much of it if they do, especially working families, especially people going to college, etc., etc. So this is not a hard issue even in the slightest if you actually know the numbers on it. It's very simple. Yeah, it's an investment in our own people, and then once they get that advanced degree and get a better job, they pay more money in tax money, therefore reverting, and it also ups consumer spending, which is very important for our economy. So it's a no-brainer issue here. It's a no-brainer issue, and it's he's not clear, and I don't even know if it's because he even has an opinion. The other issue about this is not only this coded language that I don't like, but also, and that he doesn't support free college, but I don't get the feel that he knows what he believes in. I feel like he's just filling in the gaps. And for a president, I will not I will not vote for someone who fills in the gaps on the most important issues facing our nation. These are the most important issues facing our nation. Healthcare is the most important issue facing our nation. Okay, that is the most important. College education, quite possibly the second most, outside of corruption, of course. That is obviously overarching that you have to take into account. Now, being the issue of being pro-choice or pro-life. Now, he is someone who has said that he is pro-life, so that automatically is a huge L. Especially, I'm not even that big on the issue of being like super hard stance. I'm a pro-choice person. But in these times, you can't have someone who's pro-life, because obviously we know of what's going on with Roe v. Wade, and how now that case is in danger because of Brett Kavanaugh being appointed to the Supreme Court. So it's unacceptable to have someone who is pro-life as president, especially when he doesn't even align with my beliefs, which I would have let slide if everything else was an A+, and we weren't in hyperbolic times right now where it's in danger. If we were in hyperbolic times, which we are right now, and he was on point on everything, I don't even know if I'd be able to support him, because reversing Roe v. Wade would be catastrophic, and I could not disagree with that more. Another massive, I repeat, massive issue with Richard Ojeda, okay? A huge, I repeat, huge issue, okay? A massive issue is foreign policy, okay? Foreign policy is one of the biggest issues of a presidency, because that's a big chunk of their actual of what they believe in and what they're going to do. And so basically, when it comes to the military, he actually wants to beef up the military. He doesn't want to pull back out of the wars, because he believes that the wars are they are costly and they're killing innocent civilians and it's not being effective. That's not what Richard believes in at all. In fact, what he says he should do is he wants to continue continuous airstrikes, and he actually wants to make them stronger. He wants to stay dedicated to those, and he wants to continue. He wants to actually continue his the military budget. He wants to continue the wars. He wants to continue airstrikes. He is not in any way of the business of getting out of wars. And that is a huge chunk, okay? For some people, that's a total, I'm done. Some people, that's a total KO, which is understandable, because this is massive, dude. This is huge. So let me actually read you guys what he said. This is what it says on his website. It says, "For 24 years, I wore the uniform and I carried the weapon. If there's one thing I'm confident in, it is the ability of our nation's military. The best way to keep Americans safe is to let our military do their job without muddying up their responsibilities with our political agendas." Weird. "We must be relentless and wise in our national security decisions. I know from experience that the commanders on the ground know more about what needs to happen in order to defeat them. War is not a social experiment, and I refuse to let politics play a role in my decision-making when it comes to keeping you and your family safe. I will not take my marching orders from anyone else considering national security. We must be on the offensive when it comes to defeating. We must be consistent with airstrikes, weaken their efforts with counterintelligence, seek to defund them, and stop the radicalization of Americans with propaganda. We must also ensure that terrorists do not reach American soil by abusing our immigration process. We must keep an up-to-date watch list, but provide better vetting for those that go onto the watch list. The watch list should be for people who are serious potential threats to Homeland Security. It is not an area where mistakes should ever be allowed." Okay, so what this is saying is, and I don't really understand the whole politics opinion, because not only is it bad in that you're advocating for continuous airstrikes and continuing the wars and continuing the endless cycle of everything just rinse and repeat and rinse and repeat and rinse and repeat, which we are against, but you're trying to fraud us, dude. That's what you're trying to do. You're trying to fake us out. You're trying to totally deceive us. That's what you're trying to do when you go, "I will not let politics come into my decision." Well, hold on a second. What do you mean by that? That's your coded version of saying, I'm going to continue this, and I'm not going to allow politics to change my opinion. So essentially what he's saying is I want to continue the wars, but I'm trying to hide it, because I don't want to say that outright. And so I'm going to coded language. Coded language is a very big tactic of the corporate Democrats, by the way. Access to healthcare is the biggest one. College affordability is another one. Healthcare affordability, for fuck's sake. This is a huge misnomer. This is a total it's a total X on his mark. I mean, again, for a lot of people, that's a KO as it is, just that, okay? But another big thing that's used in his favor is that he voted Donald Trump. Here's the issue with that. I don't find that to be a good thing. I don't. And again, I would have been okay with him having a House seat, but being president is totally different, okay? But look, I am sympathetic somewhat towards people, and I think we should win back these people's votes that I'm going to describe. Working people who work 40 hours a week, barely making ends meet for their families, who are not getting the help that they need, right? And they are so busy, okay, that I believe that they simply do not have the time to be keeping up with politics. But listen, man, he was in the state senate. He's been in politics. He's been running for, I think, like 4 years now, around there, maybe even longer, maybe 6, I forgot. But the point here being is, anybody who is into politics, and actually let me preface it with this. He said, and this is on his website too, or this might have been on Battlepedia's, it says that he said that his family is Democrat and that being a Republican was like cursing. In that context, how could you vote for Donald Trump? I don't understand that. I mean, Donald Trump, we know, is a massive bigot, first of all. But also, if you kept up with the election, you know that Trump was frauding, okay? And if you're someone who fell for Trump's nonsense, I still want to garner your vote, assuming that you're not, a bigot, but you're someone who was fooled by his pro-worker rhetoric. I'm going to reach out to garner their vote. But am I going to have one of those people be president of the United States? Fuck no. Hell no. I'm not going to have someone who voted Trump be president. Are you kidding me? Do you have any idea how dumb that is in the context of someone who kept up with politics? You have to be an imbecile to vote Trump if you were keeping up with politics. Trump was a massive fraud from the jump. We made fun of him for that all the time. We called him out on that. The guy was talking about, these undocumented workers. The guy, his hotels were building. They interviewed undocumented immigrants who were working on the guy's hotels. Immediately when he was elected president, he filled his cabinet with Goldman Sachs. I don't have to repeat this stuff to you guys. He's talking about, oh yeah, we need to compete with China. Dog, his suits were made in China. A fuck ton of his clothes were made in China. So if you were keeping up with the election and you were aware of that because you should have been, and you want to run for president as a Democrat, as a progressive, and you voted for Donald Trump, I'm sorry, but that alone, I'm not voting for you. I don't support you. Because anybody who kept up with the election and was someone who was in politics, this guy was in politics, no way. And in the context of you always being a Democrat, your family always being Democrat, no way you vote for a fraud bigot, okay? Not only is he a bigot, but the dude was a fraud. He was lying about being pro-worker. He was lying about being, actually caring about jobs being outsourced. Trump was lying about all that. I knew that. People on the left knew that, okay? And again, I'm sympathetic towards the people who fell for that, who are working families, who genuinely believed him, who are just too busy to keep up with politics and know the real stuff. But someone who's inside of politics, I don't have sympathy for you. How did you fall for the most blatant fraud ever? Are you kidding me? And this is taking out, by the way, all of the massive negatives that come with Trump. All of them. He was a conservative during the election cycle, and so there's no way, I repeat, no way you should have voted for him in any way, okay? None. And so that on its own, that on the face of it, no thanks. I'm good just off that. But we can't trust this guy. That's the truth. Okay, Bernie Sanders is well vetted. He literally, I repeat, literally has decades upon decades of experience, of a record. This guy, I can't remember when that letter was. Someone can say it in the comment section. But it was in sometime in the 1900s, in the late 1900s, where he wrote a letter talking about how we need to legalize pot, how we need to fight for gay rights, and how we need to fight for their equality. I believe he even talked about trans rights, which wasn't even a discussion at the time. That wasn't even a talk at the time. This guy was ahead of his time. He voted against the Iraq War, and he was essentially Nostradamus in predicting what would happen. Go back and watch his speech about that on the House floor. He was dead on point. The man was dead on point. He supports Medicare for all. He supports free college. For fuck's sakes, the guy made those platforms nationwide known and shifted the Overton window. Okay? So, Bernie Sanders is by far and away better than Richard Ojeda, not even close. But I don't even support Richard Ojeda for president. He's not fit to be president. He's only been in the state senate. He hasn't even held a federal congressional seat or a governorship. So he doesn't even have enough experience to do it. But B, half of his policy positions are he just threw them in. He just now found them out. How am I supposed to know if he goes in and decides, we have a chance to pass Medicare for all, and he signs against it because he only supports a public option? How am I supposed to know if that's not what's going to happen? I don't trust this guy, and neither should you guys, because this guy's just filling in positions. On his website, he literally said follow for updates because he didn't know what his positions were. And his positions, by the way, they don't meet my own litmus test. And my litmus test is probably the weakest out of all litmus tests. It's, do you support Medicare for all? Yes or no? Answer is no, fuck you. Okay, the answer is yes. Okay, I most likely support you, assuming your other opinions line up. Okay, and that's the thing. We cannot trust this guy. We are functionally unable to trust this guy because of his lack of experience, toppled with voting for Donald Trump, which is a crazy thing to do, considering the context of being a Democrat and being in politics, okay? And he's wrong on multiple things. His foreign policy could not be more different than mine. His position on Medicare for all, he doesn't support it. His position on college education, doesn't support free college. Instead, he does the fluff piece about tax credits and we need to help monitor. That's Hillary Clinton talk. That's what that is. That's Hillary Clinton speaking. That's not Bernie Sanders. That's not Tulsi Gabbard. That's not Nina Turner. That's not progressive talk. That is corporate Democrat. I want to play, moderate, and I'm just going to give you platitudes. That's what that is. That's what that is. That's precisely what that is. So the idea that I'm going to support someone who doesn't support Medicare for all, who doesn't support free college education, who supports beefing up our military and going more on the offensive, who's pro-life in our times now. No, I'm not supporting you, especially when you don't even know half of your policy positions. Okay, there's no way I'm supporting you. Richard Ojeda, I don't support him. He should withdraw immediately because he's just going to pull votes away from Bernie Sanders, which is a horrible electoral strategy, a horrible one at that. So in conclusion, I do not support Richard Ojeda for president. President is far out of his league. He needs to work his way up at least somewhat. He's not fit to be president at all, and he might even be a fake.